Good evening, everyone. My name is Edward Serna, and I am the president at the University of Maine at Farmington. Thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate you sticking with us on this presidential tour. We know that it has evolved since the first episode aired just a few short weeks ago, but in true Maine ingenuity, and because we are committed to keeping our students and our community safe and healthy, we're here with you tonight from a distance. And speaking of tonight, we have a wonderful panel of students and staff gathered via Zoom to discuss the importance of internships, including a robust student teaching program here at UMF, and how these experiences play a vital role in students' employability after graduation. Farmington has long prided itself on its hands-on experiential approach to higher education. Nearly all of our majors require an internship or a similar out-of-classroom project, and many students graduate having had more than one internship during their time at UMF. These experiences afford our students the opportunity to develop skills for the workforce. They get to roll up their sleeves and work side by side with practitioners in the industries in which they will later seek employment. Of course, UMF values and offers a broad liberal arts curriculum, but we also emphasize our commitment to making our students career ready upon graduation. Our internships play a key role in fulfilling that commitment. But before we get started with our panel discussion, I want to share a new video that highlights why Farmington might be the right fit for you. Whether you're a rising senior in high school, an admitted student at UMF, or you've already made your decision to be a Beaver this fall, this information will be worth your while. So stay tuned, back live shortly. Enjoy.
There's a small college at the foothills of the mountains in western Maine, the University of Maine at Farmington. Smack in the middle of the best skiing, hiking, rafting, and kayaking in the Northeast, near Sugarloaf and Sunday River. Farmington is Maine's nationally ranked college, a U.S. News top college for years and years, and a best value school. A college where professors know you by name and know you as a person. Here you'll learn how to think, not what to think. Our internships, student teaching, and research projects get you ready for your first job and your first promotion. We're not an expensive private school, we're not a big state U, and we're sure not a big city U. We're small and friendly, artsy quirky, really smart, super affordable Farmington. The University of Maine at Farmington, Maine's public liberal arts college that works.
Hello again, and welcome to the Presidential Tour episode on internships. We've got a great panel of UMF staff and students joining us this evening. So let's go ahead and begin with some introductions. Again, my name is Edward Serna, and I am the president at the University of Maine at Farmington. Hiram, would you like to go next?
Absolutely. I'm Hiram Sibley. I'm the Director of Field Services.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Steve Davis, and I'm a career counselor at the University of Maine at Farmington.
Hi there. I'm Cindy McShane, and I'm also UMF.
Hello, I'm Megan Price. I'm the internship coordinator, and I'm a member of the class of 2002.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Elrich. I'm the Director of Admissions here at the University of Maine at Farmington.
Hi, I'm Alicia Gallo. I'm a senior at UMaine Farmington, and I'm studying environmental policy and planning.
Hi, I'm Nate Campbell. I'm a senior at UMF, and my major is outdoor recreation and business administration.
Hello, my name is Jessica Freeborn, and I am a senior elementary education major with a concentration in mathematics.
Fantastic. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. I might be a little biased, but that is a pretty impressive panel we have assembled here at UMF tonight. So if the panel's ready, why don't we just jump right in with some questions. Let's start with a basic definition so our viewers understand what we're talking about. When you're working with UMF students, what do you mean when you use the term internship?
Well, I can speak to that from an education standpoint. Typically, when we're talking about getting students out into the field to be prepared to be teachers, we're talking about practicum courses and we're talking about student teaching, which is something that our education students do at the very end of the program. But there also are a series of internships that some of our early childhood and early childhood special ed students do in local, private, and public programs to develop their craft as well, which is separate from practicum courses.
Okay, so Hiram, so again, what's that definition between student teaching and practicum? I just want to make sure that I'm clear on that and our audience is clear on that.
Sure. So practicum is are classes that are done fairly early in students' programs. So if somebody is going to be an education major and is a pre-service teacher, we want to get you out really early on into practicum experiences where you've got a seminar class and the seminar instructor is your supervisor out in the field. We get you placed into a local school, probably within about half an hour of campus, and you get a chance to get into a classroom, experience what that's like, work with really good mentors, and see if teaching is really for you. So that's a chance to learn about what teachers do and to get involved in the classroom, learn from mentor teachers. Student teaching is something that we do, that seniors do, and they do it for 16 weeks near or at the end of their program. And it's how pre-service teachers at UMF get certified to become teachers in Maine. So student teaching is you're again working with a supervisor and a mentor teacher, but over the course of the 16 weeks, you go from assisting and learning from the mentor teacher to taking over that classroom and really being ready to be a professional teacher.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Hiram. Megan, I want to bring it back to you for a minute. Just so how about that basic definition? So what do we mean when we mean internships outside of the educational space?
The basic definition of an internship is an experience that uses real-world application to integrate classroom knowledge and lessons to develop work values and professional skills. So really, what does that mean? It's taking what you do in the classroom and putting it into real life practice. So that when you sit there and you do your microeconomics and your marketing and all those classes, you get to put them into the real world and see how they apply to the day-to-day operations of a business or organization.
Okay, got it. Thanks, Megan. Thank you both. I'd like to use these next couple of segments to dive into internships a little bit more, and then we'll come back to student teaching a little bit later in the show. So I want to go to Steve. So Steve, can you tell me a little bit about why you believe it's important for college students to complete at least one internship by the time they graduate? And what are 4 or 5 reasons you give to your career advisees when you explain the advantages of completing an internship?
Boy, I can think of more than 4 or 5, but the first one that comes to mind is to allow our students to test drive a career path. You certainly can research careers and talk to professionals, but it's not the same as actually being in the field and working with them. I also recommend to our students that they do that fairly early in their time at the university, just so they can try to make that assessment about whether it's the right career for them before they've been here for 4 years. Additionally, I think internships can help students figure out what they value and what they're skilled at, in terms of employment in the future. Do they want to work in a formal culture or an informal work culture? Do they are more effective in a group or individually? Do they really like working with numbers and data, or is there something else that they work with? I think it also helps a student build their career narrative. It gives them things to put on their resume and stories to tell in an interview or on a cover letter. Another really important piece is what it does for their professional network in terms of expanding their network and being able to contribute to the organization. And of course, the most important one is the experience that they get, the skills that they develop in the career that they're interested in.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Stephen. I think I need to talk to you a little bit more about this informal work culture. I think I need to learn a little bit more about that. So Megan, I'm going to come back to you. So when do you think is the right time for a college student to complete an internship? In the summer or during the academic year while they're taking courses after the first year, or is it better to wait until your junior year?
Um, that's another great question. I mean, I want to be like, anytime, it's the best time. But it's really, when does it fit with your career, your academic course load? When does the internship location have time for you? Some of it's the course load. Some of the fields of study at UMF require that you do it in a spring semester, or they'd like you to do it in the summer. Alpine operations, you need to be in the winter. Weird. So small things like that. I always encourage students to do their internships a little bit later in their academic career. So after their sophomore, preferably their junior year, they want to be in those 200, 300 level classes. You want to take that coursework that you're doing in the classroom and put it into your internship. You don't want to have an internship experience that then you're turning around and discovering, oh, I wish I'd known this after the fact when you're sitting in a class. So we kind of encourage that sort of in the mid-range after your sophomore, after your junior year. Again, it very much depends on your personal field of study and what is essential. Many of the internships outside of student teaching and a couple other majors, we really encourage them to be done by the second to last semester of your career at UMF. That way you can finish things up, get focused, and then that allows you to focus on your last semester in your career path to then finding a job after college.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Megan. All right, Stephen, so I'm going to bring it back around to you. Let's talk some basics here. What's required to apply for internships? Students need some essential documents like a resume, a cover letter, a list of references. What are each of these documents and how should students go about developing them?
Absolutely. I always think of a resume as a 1 to 2 page document that communicates your professional skills and your experiences and your accomplishments to whoever your reader is. It's in the end, it's a marketing tool to promote your skill set and your work ethic. The cover letter is really a 1-page document. It's an introduction to your employer, and it creates a bridge between your employer's needs and the student's skills and what they want to learn in an internship. Of course, the references is just that, a list of professionals that can vouch for your skill set and also your work ethic. In terms of developing them, I think the first step is really to add to your career narrative by gaining as much experience as you can, working hard academically, and wisely spending your summers on career-related activities. Secondly, I think meeting with the career development professionals on your campus, that would be Cindy and I here at UMF, to help you craft a resume and cover letter that clearly communicates your career narrative.
That's really good. Good advice, Stephen. Thank you. So Megan, I'm going to bring it back to you again. For students who are interested in completing an internship, is there a magical comprehensive website that lists all internship opportunities on a college campus that they can just browse? Or does researching and finding opportunities take a different approach?
Oh man, I wish we had a magical portal of internship experiences.
Wouldn't that be cool?
It would be so cool. But then I wouldn't have as much fun with my job. So no, there's not one magical portal to find your internship experience. We are working on a unified job board so that when you enter as a first year and you start looking for on-campus employment, it will also be a place where you can find internship experiences, volunteer experiences, and then after graduation jobs. So there will be a one, like, not really magical portal, but like magic adjacent. But you might need a little bit of help. Any of us can help you in looking for a job. It's just like looking for a job in the real world. There's a bunch of different search engines. Different career paths have different internship websites. I could probably name 10 different internship specific job boards that are out there. And then there's career path portals that are out there. So it's a really good idea to kind of play around on the internet and then find someone to help you through it, because it's a big world. But man, wish there was a magic portal. That'd be so cool.
It would be cool. But I am going to adopt your word of magic adjacent. I think that's going to now be part of my vocabulary. So thanks for that.
You're welcome.
So Cindy, I'm going to go ahead and bring you into this conversation. What role can professors play in helping students explore and find internship opportunities?
That's a good question. Professors can play a pretty significant role in helping people find internships. They don't have a magic wand per se, but they can help you with the network connections that they have, and they can help you formulate what you want to do during an internship, what you might be creating for work for them if it's for credit, other things along those lines. And then, of course, as you start your internship, very importantly, they can help you process what you're learning in experience and apply what you're learning in theory from the classroom to what you're doing every day. So they're a really great resource to go to talk about during any part of the internship process.
That's great. Thanks, Cindy, for that. All right, Megan, you're not off the hook yet. I got one more for you. So let's say a college student is already interested in completing an internship. What should they do to realize that goal? Who should they start talking with on a college campus?
They should come talk to me, internship coordinator. I'm pretty fun. But also, you can talk to Steve and Cindy in career services. You can talk to any faculty member. You can always talk to your faculty advisor. There's a bunch of different pathways that you can take that will lead you to an internship. And we're all here. We all work together really, really well. So if you go talk to Cindy and Steve, they're not going to tell you you're in the wrong spot. They're going to help you out, and we're going to work together to make sure that we have an internship for you that's going to get you that specific goal at the end of it.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, thanks, Megan. Now, we've been hearing a lot from staff, our very talented staff, about the value of internships, but I'd like to turn it over to one of the students we have with us here this evening, Alicia Gallero. Alicia, can you tell us a little bit about your firsthand internship experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm kind of unique. According to my transcript, I've only completed one internship, but I've really had two. And I would say that I have a generally non-traditional route on how I found them, but pretty amazing opportunities. The second internship was last semester. I had a full-time internship experience, 12 credits. I was located in Portland, Maine, and I was working in the realm of aquaculture. So that's something that has become really interesting to me, definitely where I intend to be after graduation. And I worked for a company called the Maine Oyster Company, which on paper is a restaurant raw bar located in downtown or western side of Portland, I guess. But I got to work and learn about a lot of different components of the aquaculture industry. That was really interesting. One of the biggest goals of that restaurant is to be an industry kind of community center facilitator, which actually allowed me to meet more than 30 people within the industry operating their own farms, and has allowed me to now have visited and or worked on more than 12 or 15 farms at this point. So that meant that I got to go out and work on oyster farms, mussel farms, kelp farms. I'm actually going to a kelp farm tomorrow. Essential workforce farmers. But this opportunity allowed me to utilize my education thus far, but also really gain a new industry experience. I've gotten to utilize my GIS certificate, assisting people with aquaculture leases with the state of Maine and the required maps. I've helped my employer put on an event with over 500 people in attendance, kind of all about the Maine Oyster, the Maine Oyster Fest. So my experience was super positive. It's definitely led to job opportunities after college and graduate school opportunities, given my experience and my passion. But it was really influential. I would say the most unique thing about my story, or one of the more important things, is that one thing that isn't unique is that I got turned down by a lot of applications over last summer, and that's okay. And I accepted that. I put out a wide net applying to internships all along the coast of the U.S., including Maryland was kind of like the hotspot I looked for initially, and I heard nothing. And I was fairly discouraged and hoped, like, I'd planned to be away for the summer, and it didn't come together. But the internship opportunity I got, I started seeking out people within the industry and just asking them about, is this something you've done before? Is this something you'd consider facilitating? I have a resume, I have a CV. I'm a hard worker and I just want to learn. And it was really incredible how responsive people were. And the person I wanted to work with most said, yeah, when can you start? Next week? Like, let's go. And I was off to the races. So I think that my experience wasn't, I think if you're not finding the opportunities that you want in an internship, there are people there who are willing to facilitate you and may have never navigated the course before, but they're willing to try. And I think that's really valuable to know, that don't stop if you're not finding an application. Find the industry member that you kind of seek out and see if they're willing to be a facilitator. Not everyone will, but there's definitely people out there.
I think that's great advice, Alicia. So thanks for sharing that with us. I think we're going to cut to a commercial break for a few moments. And when we come back, we'll be hearing from another one of our student panelists, Nate Campbell. So stay tuned.
I wanted to stay relatively close to home. When I was applying, I looked at schools in Maine and Massachusetts. When it came down to it, Farmington had the major I wanted. It's a nice small school close to home, and it just made sense.
Originally I was undecided, but after taking some psychology courses, I got to know the professors, and I realized that was the path I wanted to go on. The people are great, the professors are very nice. I like to have those interactions with them, and I've built a lot of relationships.
Being in Farmington, I feel like the professors get to know you really well because it's such a small classroom setting. Farmington really emphasizes experiential education. It allows you to not only be just in a classroom setting, but in the community, getting the experience of the real world, bringing it back into the classroom.
Farmington puts a very big emphasis on internships. It's so important to get connected and network with different professionals in different businesses and in different business settings. And they do a great job just setting you up so that once you graduate, you can easily find a job.
My internship position was a patient experience intern at Maine Medical Center. I spent some time working at the front desks, escorting patients and directing them around the hospital. And then I did spend a lot of office time as well, analyzing hospital feedback and data. An internship for a psychology major is not required, but I really wanted to get it to help build my learning experience beyond the classroom.
I've always been one to want to help others and realize that they have so much potential in themselves. I had a lot of teachers that were very influential in my life, which is where I feel like my teaching comes in. I really do enjoy the middle schoolers. They make me laugh all the time. I like their sarcasm. Just being able to laugh with the students has been very important in my teaching. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a lot of work, but it's been very rewarding.
By the end of my internship, I felt like I was very much so part of the team. I wasn't just the young intern sitting off in the corner cubicle. I was doing expected work and work that benefited the company and made other employees' work lives much easier.
The internship really helped me apply what I've learned into real-world scenarios and maximize my learning at the internship as well as in the classroom.
Being in my 4th year here at Farmington, I've realized, looking back, that it's been a great decision to come here. My name is Michaela Santiris. I am a special education and rehabilitation services double major.
My name is Andrew Parent, and I'm a psychology major with a business minor.
My name is Daniel Mikowitz. I'm studying actuarial science and applied mathematics at the University of Maine at Farmington.
Welcome back, everyone. For those of you just joining us, we are discussing the value of internships and in-field experiences. We've got another student perspective for you this evening. Nate, can you tell us a little bit about your internship experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So for my internship, I did my internship up at Sugarloaf, and I basically worked in the ski shop up there, Downhill Supply. And what I did there was kind of combined like my managerial degree and my Alpine Operations Certificate internship into one, and learned kind of like the managerial skills it takes to run a retail shop and work at a mountain resort as big as Sugarloaf. And basically from there on, I learned different things such as inventory, customer service value skills, and just kind of like overall retail knowledge, kind of work with the products and do it and work with the gear that, I love. I used since I was like a little kid, skiing up in Maine and New Hampshire and all of New England. So I got to combine my passion and my major together, which was really cool, and I thought was pretty unique.
That's fantastic. So Nate, I do have a question. Like for somebody like me who just moved here from the South and has never been on a pair of skis in his entire life, like how long before I could actually go to a place like Sugarloaf? Before I'm a liability to myself and everyone around me.
Right. I would say, for Sugarloaf does a really good job with their beginner skiers. We get people from all over the world, all over the country that come and learn. And, you can there's a ton of great instructors there. They're more than willing to help you out. So if I would say that anybody can come ski at Sugarloaf and get right on the snow as long as you're willing to do it.
I may test that theory there, but okay. Thanks, Nate. I appreciate you sharing your story. So we got a few more internship topics to discuss with you all this evening, and then we'll open up to any viewer questions that you may have. So feel free to leave them in the comments and we'll be sure to answer them for you. So I'm going to bring it back to you, Steve. Would you recommend students just complete one internship during their college career, or is there an advantage to completing more than one?
Oh, I recommend more than one if it's feasible and it works out for the student and with their employment and classwork. I think if we all agree that an internship makes you more competitive in the job market, why wouldn't you want as many as you can? If my competition has one, then I want two. The advantage is more experience too. More experience, more exploration, more opportunity to interface with professionals in the field. Particularly if your first internship wasn't exactly what you planned, or maybe you discovered something about yourself that you didn't want to continue following, then a second one can help you try to find the one that does. And going back to the network piece, I think the more times you're in the field, the larger your network will be. I always think of our early childhood students. At UMF, and they're in the field 4 and 5 times. And that is just such a huge advantage when it comes to looking for a job.
All right, that's great. So Megan, I've got a long question for you, so stick with me on this one. Many college students have to work to earn money to help put themselves through college. The reality is that some internships are unpaid. What advice do you give college students who are weighing whether to keep a paying part-time job or forgo that income to gain valuable career development experience in an internship that may pay less or nothing at all?
I mean, that is a hard question, and it's one that I struggle with sometimes in student meetings. I think, the very simple answer is a student needs to look at their own fiscal and baseline needs and make sure that everything's being met. In the case of a lot of internships or in student teaching or some apprenticeship pieces, when you enter as a first year that you have this piece that's going to require 100% of your time, and that you won't be able to be having a supplemental job on the side. So that's quite a bit of time, usually about 3.5 years to prepare for that. That's more time than I ever have for any big decisions in my life financially. So you've got some time, it's coming, you can plan for it. In the case of some of the smaller internships, we look at the value of the experience. Is it the experience a unique and special opportunity that is going to lead to a career opportunity in the future? Or is it something that maybe isn't worth giving up your part-time job? So we talk about that. We also, a lot of students don't realize that a part-time job, I can reach out to an employer and talk to them and see if there's elements of that part-time job that maybe can turn into an internship and learning and career advancement piece. That's something that people are usually nervous about, that conversation, and myself and the career services team are here to help that conversation. So maybe it's not your dream internship, but we can turn that part-time job into a fantastic learning experience that you can develop professional skills for. I know that I personally advocate that almost every internship or apprenticeship that comes through my office, I encourage them to offer an hourly wage or a stipend to help offset the cost of that. That's why I'm here. I'm here to advocate for the student, to make things financially feasible for everybody. And any career development professional on campus will be there to help with these decisions when you're trying to decide against a great opportunity or a good opportunity, and making those decisions. But again, having 3.5 years to prepare for something really helps offset those financial costs.
Yeah, I bet. And I think you brought up a great point too. I mean, you are a valuable resource that students have at their disposal on a campus. And, you don't know if you don't ask. And they need to come to you and leverage your advocacy in that area. So that's really great advice for students to hear. Cindy, I'm going to bring you back to the conversation again. Do you see any downsides to college students being paid during an internship?
It's hard to say no to money. But of course, I would say that one thing you want to be mindful of when you're thinking of having a paid internship opportunity is the timeline to which you're committing. You may be asked to work on your internship for a longer time than you need for the credits towards your degree. Part of it's, a give and take between what your needs are and what the employer's needs are. And one thing to be mindful of is that timeline. If the employer is paying you, for example, they may need a longer commitment for you, for example, through their whole season, if they're a seasonal sports place or something like that. So it's important to be mindful of the timeline to which you commit, but it's hard to say no to money.
Yes, it is. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Cindy. So Stephen, I'm going to ask you a question. So if I know as a student that I'm planning to go to grad school after I get my degree, does an internship still make a lot of good sense?
Absolutely. As we mentioned before, I think internships are a great way of trying out a career and exploring it. And it's important to know your career goals before you select or apply to a graduate program. Additionally, I think an internship gives the applicant a narrative to reference when they're writing that all-important statement of purpose.
Now, that's a good point. So Megan, I've got a question for you again. So sometimes pursuing a really great internship might require that students live away from home for the summer, which means finding affordable housing. What advice do you give students who have to find summer housing so they can complete an internship?
I love this one. I enjoyed running away in my summers in college to all kinds of different places. So I'm always encouraging this. I come from the employer side. I've worked at a couple different businesses, and it's the same thing when you're looking for a job. Many places offer employee housing, but unless you ask, they're not going to offer it to you. They may have a short-term rental for executive lodging. They might have an apartment hidden in the back of a building somewhere. They might have random hotel rooms that they rent out for employees, but they don't offer it to their regular employees, and they're not going to offer it to an intern. All you have to do is ask. And I had admit, in the couple places I worked, as soon as someone asked, the housing became available. Another piece that I always recommend, you never know whose mother-in-law apartment the mother-in-law just moved to Boca Raton and it's open. So a quick little, Instagram message, Christmas card shout out, hey, I'm going to Omaha for an internship. Someone's going to go to Omaha for an internship, I swear. Just, reaching out to the network, seeing if somebody's college roommate has an empty mother-in-law apartment or an income property that they'd be okay with delaying getting a new tenant in there just so they could get a student. So reach out to your personal network. Everybody has a meme, see what's out there. And the final option that's sort of new, and it's new to UMF, is working with the student life department and your resources on campus and seeing if they have a connection at another university. So maybe there's that internship in Omaha that's a fantastic experience for a UMF student, and we have a perfect match here in Farmington for somebody from Omaha, and perhaps we could do some sort of swap. So there's resources available, whether it's your meme or whether it's the professional student life staff here. We're here to help you out and find that. But gosh, running away for the summer is a fantastic idea. So everyone should do that.
Yes, it is. So Alicia, you want to give us just some insight from a student perspective about that?
Well, more to the previous question about
Okay.
just being competitive with multiple internships for like looking towards graduate school. And the thing I just wanted to kind of reinforce is that I did apply and get accepted to graduate school this year, which is exciting. But I would say that in the conversations I had with the multiple kind of university programs that I talked to, the most valuable part of every conversation had nothing to do with my grades or even my major, but about my experience. And that is what definitely set me aside in multiple different programs and like really different types of programs where it's like a professional science master's and a 1-year track and non-thesis track to being, you know, a 2 years thesis track master's degree that could possibly go into a PhD. Regardless, the most valuable thing in my interviews and in conversations with people advising those programs had everything to do with my internship experiences and, you know, what I've done from that. And so kind of just reinforcing that if I can say anything, get as much experience as you can in the realm that you found yourself interested in pursuing postgraduate opportunities, because that is what really matters. Not to say that your grades don't, because they do, but just to reinforce that that was the most valuable conversation I had.
Yeah, I think that's great insight. I think that's really good advice for students. Thank you, Alicia. Stephen, I want to bring it back around to exploring the career options. I think we can all agree that internships have tremendous potential to help students understand their own career interests and explore, you know, their career options. Can you give us some examples of how you've seen internships lead to changes in a student's academic major or career interests?
Absolutely. I've had a number of students who had planned on being a teacher change their majors to rehabilitation services, community health education, or psychology after their first experience in the classroom during their sophomore year. They quickly learn whether the classroom is the right place for them. And I've also had a number of psychology majors, you know, I had one that I have in mind that started with a focus on research, but then after doing a clinical internship in the summertime, really switched over and changed to actually what graduate program they applied to based on that one experience. And they were now applying to a social work program, if I remember correctly. Other psychology majors have used internships to decide to learn what settings that they wanted to work in, whether it was inpatient or crisis or community mental health, and also to try to explore different populations that they wanted to work with too. So there's a number of students that it's really changed. I also work with the undeclared students, and with those students, as they're working on picking a major, sometimes a field experience can really clarify which major that they choose to go with.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. You know, I think for me personally, I knew even as a first-year student that one day I wanted to be a college president. So that doesn't apply to me. I'm joking, of course, but no, you know, I think college is about exploring those different options and understanding what you like and what you want to do. So I think that's great advice. So Cindy, I think we're going to close out this segment with a question for you. So let's say a student is unable to get an internship because of economic circumstances. How would a university support this individual's career development?
That's a really good question. You know, there's a number of ways that student can still get professional development and be supported by the university. The truth is, any extensive volunteer experience or paid experience can teach you something about yourself professionally. All you really need to do is to be able to think critically about what you're doing as you extensively volunteer or work part-time jobs, and work on connecting what you're doing in those positions to what you're learning in the classroom, and more importantly, what you're learning about yourself as a professional. Anybody can get any of these experiences, regardless of where they are in life or economically. The goal is to really kind of dissect your experiences and think critically about them. And you don't have to do that alone, of course. There's a whole group of us here to help you. People in career services, Megan over in internships. We're all here to help you kind of talk about those experiences and learn from them so you can apply them to the next thing you want to do.
That's great. Thank you for that, Cindy. All right, guys, we actually have a question from one of our viewers. So I'm going to open this up for whoever wants to take a shot at it. What science employers do you work with, industrial, commercial, or nonprofit, when developing internship opportunities?
I think that's me.
Go, Megan.
Woo! So when I start working with employers, I started with my personal network. So, and my personal history, I'm a little bit more into the outdoor recreation field. So we started there, and it started to tumble out. Through Alicia, I've started to learn more about the aquaculture and agriculture fields in Maine. There's an organization called Focus Maine that's specifically on developing resources here in Maine, developing sustainable agriculture, biotech, aquaculture. And then we just, in the conversation with students, if a student is interested in a specific field or a particular company, I'll reach out, I'll start the conversation. I did it today. You know, it is up to a student to secure an internship, but it's easier if that ice has been broken. So, you know, I reached out to someone today and was like, hi, I'm Megan Price. I'm the internship coordinator. I have a student that's interested in this. Would you be willing to open this dialogue about an internship opportunity in the future? So in the sciences field, that's definitely a great way to start. And if anyone wants that conversation, I'd love to do it. It's one of my favorite things, is to just start that. Hi, my name's Megan Price. How can I help you?
All right, that's awesome. So another question's come in. It's probably for you again, Megan. And I know we have a lot of students that come to Farmington who are actually undeclared. They don't have a major picked out yet. So how would you set up an internship for an undeclared student?
So when I entered UMF, my advisor told me you could not major in intro classes. Weird. So from that, I guess I take the path of, most people have a little bit of an idea where they might want to end up. So again, the conversation of, where might you want to go? Or do you at least know if you like algebra or plants? There, you know, and then we try to narrow it down into at least a specific field that a student might want to end up in. Maybe, again, like magic adjacent, like where might you want to end up, possibly. And so for an undeclared student that maybe might want to try education, perhaps we might start in an after school program or a summer rec program. A student that's interested in business. There's a lot of nonprofits that are looking for someone to come in and help with their social media platforms, come in and do some photography work for marketing. There's a lot of different opportunities if we can just narrow it down to a little bit of a field, so you're not like me wandering around lost and majoring in intro classes for too long. An internship is a great way to focus on where you might want to end up as a major. So we have all kinds of opportunities. And again, it starts with a conversation. Algebra, plants.
Steve, do you have something you want to add to this?
Sure. When I'm having that conversation with students, a lot of times I might concentrate sometimes on a skill. You know, is there a skill that you want to work on? Is there, you know, an experience that you've always dreamed about having, you know, and kind of work from there, you know, and try to find a place where they might apply that. So
that's a good point. Really good point. All right. I don't think we have any more audience questions right now. So I think by now you've heard that internships play a huge role in a student's college experience, specifically at UMF, but also more broadly at any institution. But hands-on in-field experiences don't always take the form of traditional internships. Here at UMF, we are proud of our reputation for having a premier teacher preparation program. All of UMF's future educators have the opportunity to student teach in classrooms, and we like to take some time to discuss what that looks like for our students. So I've often heard that the #1 question we receive from prospective students is, how soon do education majors get out in the field? So I'm going to ask one of my favorite students here at UMF that question. Jess, could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. It was the first question I asked every school I looked at. And at UMF, early childhood and early childhood special ed get in their first year. Right off the bat, you're in. Elementary education, you can get in as early as your fall semester of your sophomore year, which is ahead of a lot of different programs. And it's the same with secondary ed. You can be in at the end of your freshman year or the beginning of your sophomore year. It's all about planning, but at UMF, you have so many classroom experiences that you get in there right away.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jess. Hiram, got a question for you. Sometimes students will want to go back and teach in their home communities, in the schools that they attended growing up. How do you place students for their practicum and student teaching? Do they have to stay local?
Now that is a great question. We do draw students from all around the state and even from out of state. So we want to be able to provide opportunities for students to do student teaching in or near their home communities in many instances. When students are doing their practica, which tends to be sophomore and junior year, they stay closer to the campus because they're taking other classes. They need to get back for athletics and clubs and activities. So we tend to place people within half an hour of UMF, roughly speaking. During student teaching, though, we're looking for really good matches where students are in a community with a school that is really going to meet their needs and challenge them. Sometimes that involves people living in the community that they come from and student teaching thereabout. Sometimes it means finding a different school someplace that they don't have a lot of experience with because the mentor or the philosophy of the school is such a good connection for them. In those cases, we place a lot of people in the Farmington area, but we also place people all over the state. We'll get some special requests for people who want to be up the mid-coast. We've got a student in the fall who's going to be student teaching up in Holton. It really depends on what people are looking for. We've got a good presence in Portland, southern Maine, and also in Lewiston, Auburn. Many of our students who are interested in getting an ELL certificate while they're here and getting endorsed as an ELL teacher will want to do student teaching in the Lewiston, Auburn area or possibly down in Portland. So it really has to do with what a student wants to get out of the experience.
That makes sense. So I guess I'll pose this question to both you, Hiram, and Jess, kind of on that same geography question. Are there opportunities for our students who want to teach in other parts of the country or even abroad? Do they have the opportunity for that?
So we do have some students who come from out of state or interested in teaching out of state after they graduate. And Steve Davis actually does a lot of work with those students getting ready to get certified in other states. But the way we approach it in field is that when it's time to student teach, we want all students to, upon graduation, to get certified in Maine, but we also want them to have the opportunity to spend some time out of state. So they do the first 8 weeks of their student teaching experience with a mentor in a local school here in Maine and a supervisor here in Maine, and they complete most of the assessments that we use as the basis for certification here in the state of Maine. They'll do that right here, and then in the second 8 weeks, they might go to their home state or a different state, and we'll find then we'll work with them and other schools to find a mentor teacher there. They'll continue to be in contact with their supervisor here, somebody who knows them. But they'll complete their second 8 weeks out of state. There are also some opportunities to go overseas. We have a good relationship with a program in Hong Kong with some schools there and also in South Korea. In the past, some student teachers have student taught in Ireland, and we're working on we're building a relationship with a university in England as well as one in northern Japan. I think the key thing really is that if a student thinks that they're going to want to have an experience like that, they need to start having those discussions with us and with their advisor pretty early on and mapping that out. We're certainly flexible, and I think we get almost as excited as the students when they want to do something like that. And so we're eager to look into it and to support them and research them. But it takes some planning to make it happen.
Right, makes sense. Jess, do you want to add anything to that?
I think Hiram did a great job explaining it. I'm from Massachusetts, so it was really a conversation. Do you want to student teach half at home and half here? Or, do you want to have the Maine education experience? So it was really cool that it was presented right in front of me. The resources are there for you. It is an option. And the decision is yours, which is really great about our program. And so I ultimately decided to student teach in Maine, but once again, you get to pick.
Gotta love that. So Jess, I'm going to keep you on the hook here for another question. We've talked a little bit about where students can go for their in-field experiences, but what does student teaching actually look like?
Absolutely. So student teaching is, first off, the best experience you will ever have. But really, you get in a classroom, you have a mentor, and you will work with that mentor to develop a pace that really meets your comfort level, whether you start off the first week observing, or maybe you jump right in and you're co-teaching, you're running morning meetings. It's really up to you and your mentor, and that's a conversation you'll have when you're meeting during prep. Then really skip towards, the middle of our student teaching experience. You're co-teaching, you're teaching the lessons, you're really hands-on. They are your students. And so that's a great part about student teaching is, you're the teacher. Yes, you're student teaching, but you should see yourself, especially by the middle of student teaching, as the teacher. By the end of student teaching, it is your classroom. You walk in, you teach from the start of the day until the end, and your mentor is really there to help guide you and be a facilitator of this experience. So in student teaching, you're going to PLC meetings, you're going to staff meetings, you're participating in parent-teacher conferences, you're running them with your mentor. You're going to the after-school fundraisers. Maybe you go watch a soccer game for one of your students. Student teaching, you are there from the start of the day until you're done with your prep work.
That's great. So Jess, let me ask you about transportation, because I know that's a question that comes up with our students quite a bit. Do students need vehicles for either of the required placements?
Absolutely. That was a big concern of mine as well. I did not have snow tires. So I was, very nervous, although I did have a vehicle. You do not necessarily have to have a car. It is not a deal breaker. The program really works with you, which is really great. And they're so big on carpooling. I carpooled for both of my practicums, and it's so important because you have that time to reflect with your peers. So if you don't have a car, that's fine. Just think you'll get to make a new friend in your practicum block, and you'll get to talk about your experience. A car might be helpful if you're student teaching, depending on where you're located. You'll have seminars for both of them. But once again, they will work with you. I've had several peers in both my practicum experiences and in student teaching that they didn't have vehicles. So your placement will be based around that. It won't be an afterthought. It will be part of the initial conversation. So don't make it a stressor. At UMF, they will make sure that you are getting where you are supposed to be.
All right, Jess, I'm going to keep you on the hook for another question because you mentioned the word stressors. So one of the big stressors is that, student teaching is a really big time commitment. And if students are interested in being involved in varsity athletics or in other extracurricular activities, is there time for that with student teaching?
The short answer is absolutely. You have to make time for it. I think always student teaching is your top priority. You are teaching, you are in charge of however many students' education the next day. So you have to make sure that you're planning, that you're prepped, that your seminar work is done. But, I was in several clubs on campus, student senate president, but I was also an athlete. So I made sure to plan ahead and talk with all of our wonderful resources at UMF early on to plan, okay, so I'm on the ski team. How am I going to student teach and ski at the same time? So maybe you student teach in a different semester than your sport. That's what I did. I student taught in the fall. and I skied in the spring. That's not possible. There are still ways to work around that. Maybe you go to a few practices on the weekend, maybe one night practice a week. It is absolutely possible to stay involved and still have a wonderful student teaching experience.
That's really great. Thanks for that, Jess. Hiram, kind of a related question. I think one of the things that we're really proud of here at UMF is we have a pretty robust study abroad program. If you're an education major, can you find the time to still engage in study abroad opportunities here at UMF?
So it is possible. And much like the idea of doing student teaching abroad or out of state, what we say is if you have an interest, start talking to your advisor early, kind of scope out what the opportunities are. Let us know what you're interested in. And there are some things you can do. You can go abroad for a semester and hopefully go find some key information, have some key experiences that you can bring back. But there are also short-term study abroad opportunities that tend to fall in mid-May or between terms when students will take a short-term class with a professor and they will go travel either abroad or in the country for purposes that relate to the class itself. And that's a great way to get out and see the world a little bit.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. So Jess, I have one more time management question for you since you are able to juggle so many activities here at UMF. So I'm going to throw one more at you. Are students able to work another job while they're student teaching?
Yes, you can work. And I think that, a lot of people think you can't. It's not necessarily the easiest thing to do, but it is possible. And the reality for so many students is it's a necessity. I did it. It's possible. I made it through student teaching. And it's about communication, I think, is the biggest thing. Really talking to your employer, but also communicating that with your supervisor. I talked with my mentor about it and making sure really your job is willing to be flexible around your required student teaching meetings, staff meetings that are just, come up randomly, or you're asked to do something at school and you can't leave and make that shift. So I think for me, I was so lucky to have a wonderful on-campus job, and we have so many. And so they're great to work with you and say, oh, absolutely. Okay, we'll switch this. What works best for you? So yes, you can do it. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. It is hard, but you can do it. And it's necessary. I needed it, and you will too, because it's hard to say no to money.
Thanks, Jess. I think you even motivate me. That's great. So, Farmington has been fortunate to graduate some really outstanding teachers who have gone on to work in the state of Maine, including a number of Maine Teachers of the Year. We're proud to call them our alums, but even more grateful that they often go on to serve as mentors for the next generation of future educators. Stay tuned for a quick commercial break where we'll hear from Jennifer Dorman, the 2015 Maine Teacher of the Year and UMF alumna.
I chose UMF to pursue my teaching career over 25 years ago, largely because of its reputation for being a leader in teacher preparation. While at Farmington, I realized that teachers there teach by example. They emphasize the importance of best practices while weaving in the importance of building relationships with their students in their classrooms. As an accomplished teacher, I work with Farmington's pre-service teachers in my own classroom. I continue to be impressed by their knowledge, their skills, and their reflective nature. They're enthusiastic and forward-thinking, making me proud to be a Farmington grad all over again. My name is Jennifer Dorman. I'm the 2015 Maine Teacher of the Year and a 1993 graduate of the University of Maine at Farmington.
Hello, again. For those of you joining us, we're discussing the value of internships and in-field experiences such as student teaching. We've got a few more questions about student teaching for you, and then we'll open it up again for viewer questions. If you haven't already, feel free to leave a question in the comments. We're sure to answer them live on the show tonight. Now, we know that many of you tuning in tonight are Mainers, but for those of you living in New England and beyond, you may be curious to know if our ed students can get certified out of state after student teaching in Maine. Hiram, can you speak to that a little bit?
I can speak to that. By the end of student teaching, our students have met all of the state of Maine standards for endorsement, and we make sure that that they all apply for certification and get certified to teach in the state of Maine. And they can submit that information once they've become certified here. They can apply in the states that they live in or states where they want to teach. And Steve Davis and the career services folks guide them in that process. That we do some professional development for student teachers to show them exactly how to go about applying to get certified in other states and what the requirements are there.
Okay, that's great. Hiram, I know certifications are a big deal, so let me ask you a question. Students are becoming increasingly savvy about what they want from their education. Can they get multiple certification during their time at Farmington?
Well, there are a few options. So students choose a major and they get certified in that area. They tend to focus in on a particular grade level and content area in secondary education. And that will be their primary endorsement, their main endorsement with the state of Maine. They'll do they'll have a student teaching experience that aligns with that. That's the basis for their regular endorsement. But there is a growing interest in ELL certification, so teaching students that are English language learners. And we have a very good certificate program for that that will help education majors become endorsed by the state of Maine to be an ELL teacher in addition to their regular endorsement. We have a new ELL minor, which is a even more comprehensive way to approach that. And we also have a fairly new and very exciting special education 4+1 program, which is a 4 years of undergraduate education, not necessarily in special education, but often students who pick up a special education minor in addition to their other area in addition to their major, and they will stay for 1 extra year. They'll do a graduate program in special education and then end up with a master's degree in special education and go get certified in special ed as well.
Very nice. So you spoke a little bit. So let's go back to that graduate school thing a little bit. So you talked about the 4+1 in graduate, the master's program in special ed. But what about after other students graduate? Can they go on for graduate degrees in education?
Absolutely. So we have a very exciting set of graduate programs, and the folks who work over in the graduate studies department are very willing and able to connect with people if they have questions. They do exciting work. So they, in addition to the special ed degree, they have a master's degree in educational leadership, in early childhood, and that's an area where I think we have a lot of growth in the university. And I have found that many of our student teachers are excited about getting out into the field and teaching, but also starting in graduate studies right away. It seems to be something that is doable and also in high demand.
Okay, that's great. I'm going to ask both you and Jess a question on this one, just because you have two very different perspectives. There are multiple programs across our state and in New England. What would you say distinguishes a degree in education from UMF when in comparison to other schools?
Jess, do you want to go first?
Sure. Okay. So, first off, UMF is known for its education programs. The way I found out about UMF was vacationing in Bridgeton, Maine, and a woman from Florida said, "Oh, you want to study education? You have to go to Farmington." Farmington? What's that? So I Googled it. And it is, everyone knows what it is. That's the first thing when you're sending out your cover letter, your resume, and they see that you went to the University of Maine at Farmington and studied education. you are automatically right at this, right at the top of their list, because we have so many in-class experiences. I mean, it really doesn't compare to a lot of other schools. And that's why UMF was my top choice when I discovered that I really wanted to be a teacher, because I was right there. I've had 3 amazing experiences with mentors that I still talk to. So it doesn't compare.
That's great. We actually collect a little data on this because we're always looking to be the best program, the best university we can be. So we ask students after they graduate, and we also talk to students while they're in their programs. So we say, what is really working for you? What made the biggest difference at UMF? And what we hear more than anything is that people say to us that the relationship that they have with faculty is incredible. They feel like the faculty are knowledgeable and capable and challenge them, but also really know them and anticipate where they're going to have difficulties and get involved and really support people all the way through all 4 years. When students get out into field experiences, they get to work with very, very capable faculty supervisors, which I can't say enough good things about. The team of supervisors are really terrific people, and I think in the relationships that the supervisors build, not only with student teachers, but with the mentors in the local schools and with the administrators in those schools, are pretty amazing. Sometimes administrators will say to me, principals and assistant principals, superintendents will say, it's like the supervisor is almost like another member of the staff. They know the schools, they know what people need, they know the mentors so well, which not only helps the students have a great experience, but frankly, it helps them get hired, because the supervisors will know where the job opportunities are. They'll know where a student teacher will be a good fit. And there's that constant flow of information back and forth between school districts and us and students that is really a great connection. And I don't want to give the impression that there's a secret handshake or something like that, but there are many people in schools, many of the teachers of the year, many of the administrators who are UMF graduates and stay very connected with us. They volunteer, they come up and do mock interviews, they get to know our students and really make sure that they feel at home when they get out into local schools.
Yeah, both of you gave fantastic answers. So go Beavers to both of you. That was awesome. Now we know internships and student teaching experiences are vital to students' employability after graduation. So I'd like to unpack that a little bit more here tonight. So Cindy, I'm going to come back to you. Applying for an internship is similar to applying for that first real post-college job. I would imagine that gaining experience with the application process itself is valuable. Is that correct?
Oh, definitely. In fact, that's one of the biggest advantages of going through the process of applying for an internship, is that it makes the process of applying for a job. Many people find, a degree of anxiety about applying for jobs, but one of the great things about internships is that it can teach you about that process. So you're creating a resume, a cover letter, you're going through an interview, and you're doing it in a comfortable setting. So when you go out there in the workforce, you'll have that experience under your belt and have that confidence. It's a great way to prepare for the bigger picture.
That's great. So Cindy, another question for you. So let's imagine I'm a student. I just finished completing an internship. What would you tell me I need to be doing before I leave that internship position?
Well, first, I congratulate you. Good job. You got to your internship.
Thank you.
But then, of course, you want to do some things to get yourself ready for the next step. So you want to ask for a reference and a letter of recommendation from your supervisor. You want to be connected to all the people who you worked with, get their contact information in terms of their professional contact information. You also might want to find them on a professional networking platform. We usually recommend LinkedIn. It's pretty easy to use and it's easy to connect with people. And then, of course, we want to make sure you can talk about your experience. So a good thing to do is to request to use your work as something called a brag book, which is kind of like a recollection of all your experiences. Let's say you made a website, for example. You want to get permission from your employer to show that off in your next job interview. So it's really just thinking about what you did in that experience and how it can relay you to the next.
That's really good advice. All right, Megan, I'm going to bring you back in on this. Sometimes internships lead to job offers. Does this really happen in your experience?
Yes, I actually, yes. So one, my personal story, I did my internship a couple years ago, and then that led to myself ending up in Colorado with a job offer because I was a UMF alumni, because not only is UMF known for its education program, it's also well known for its recreation program, specifically in snow sports and outdoor recreation. So my personal internship led me to a job offer in Colorado, where I worked for quite a while, which then led to me returning to Maine. I'm not from Maine. I guess I didn't return here. But anyway, coming to Maine. And that led to a job in which I then had an intern, and I really enjoyed the internship process with that intern. His name's Nate Campbell. And I started investigating on how to improve the internship process, which led me to my current job as internship coordinator. So yes.
Look at that.
But in a less time-consuming, shorter than 20 years pathway, yes, a lot of internships turn into offers of employment. Nate is a fantastic example of that. He did an internship last year, which turned into an offer as a part-time job during the entire winter and spring semester. I'm sure he has an offer to stay through the summer and into next winter if he'd like to at that job. Sorry, I'm not your supervisor anymore, but you did a great job. I'm sure you can stay there. But that also in situations such as Jess, where she does a student teaching experience, and there may not be an open position there at the school she did it in, but as she said, her network that she has by being a UMF education major, the teachers, her mentors are going to help and reach out and find a school that matches her philosophies, her education thoughts and standpoints. I know that if Nate doesn't want to return to Sugarloaf and wanted to go somewhere else, the network he's made through his internship will expand outward. Sometimes there's not a position to get hired in your area, or maybe you don't want to do a job where you did your internship because you want to move to Wyoming or California or Omaha. And so maybe there's someone at your internship that you really did a fantastic job and they'd love to hire you, but that's not where life is going to take you. They can help you through their professional network and their personal network. They can help you find a job placement. It definitely varies on the field that you're doing your internship in. Some internships are designed to turn into employment. I know a lot of internships in the finance field are designed that you do the internship and then it rolls right into the next level of employment. Student teaching is like that. You do your student teaching and then you become a teacher. Some other internships, such as Alicia's, maybe she would be her own independent contractor. Maybe she'll be a subcontractor. Maybe she'll be a consultant. There's a lot of ways that internship can lead to employment. And then maybe in 20 years, they'll have their own intern that they're remembering their experience and helping them through the process. So yes, I think internships, well, they don't necessarily lead in the direct line of I did an internship and then I got a job. I have yet to encounter a student that their internship experience did not lead them towards the path of employment in a way that they were very satisfied with.
That's a really good point, Megan. So I want to loop you back in here because I think it's probably less than a 20-year pathway from student teaching to being in the classroom that first year. So how common is it for teachers to find a teaching position once they graduate?
So it's there is a brisk market for UMF student teaching for student teachers. Certainly people, schools, administrators are looking to get student teachers out into their schools. And then our graduates get hired also at a very brisk pace. I get calls and emails every week from school-based administrators and from superintendents looking for graduates, looking for recent graduates, looking for upcoming graduates. There really is a demand out there for UMF graduates, not only in education, but certainly that's mostly what I deal with. So I would say that if you want to be a teacher in Maine and you are committed to a program like ours, you put in the time and the effort, that you will definitely be finding a job out there waiting for you. We also have a good process of connecting with schools during student teaching in student senior year. Cindy and Steve and the rest of the career services folks put on an amazing education job fair. And it's very well attended by schools and school districts from all over Maine, and sometimes schools even from away. And that's a great experience to go around and get to meet people from a number of different places. And during student teaching, we host a series of mock interviews where local administrators will come in and they will interview students to give the students a chance to learn those interview skills. But again, that's a chance to network and get to know people. So we take a lot of pride in meeting the needs of the schools and the students of Maine, and I think this is a good time to be going into the field of teaching in Maine.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Hiram. So I just want to thank everyone for doing an awesome job on that segment. I think it really highlights that by providing students with these experiences, we're helping to ready them for the workforce. offers its students access to an excellent education and everything that includes, from career-readying internships and student teaching to extracurricular and varsity sports, all at a very affordable price. We're going to cut to a quick commercial break that speaks to UMF's affordability and why students continue to choose Farmington.
Well, I applied to a few other schools, but I kind of already knew Farmington was like my top choice. When I took a tour here, I was just like, oh, okay, so this is it. Farmington offered me a lot more financial aid than I thought other schools would offer me. Growing up throughout high school, my mom, she was unemployed, so money was always tight around the house. I didn't want to be in a situation where right out of school, I would already be in like the same situation that I was growing up. So I wanted to make sure that I was making a choice that I could actually pay off in the future and it wouldn't be like a huge burden, and I could actually like provide the life that I want for myself. And in the end, Farmington just had that value.
I've seen the difference that it's made in people's lives. Having an affordable college. This was the only school that I applied to be a teacher, and I could not picture myself doing anything else now. Because it's one of the best teaching schools, and it's also one of the cheapest schools in Maine. Cheap, in this case, doesn't mean bad quality. It means great quality at a great price.
My name is Allie Banks, and I'm an outdoor recreation business administration major.
My name is Maggie Pomerlow, and I am a secondary education and English double major at the University of Maine at Farmington.
Welcome back, everyone. As we wrap up our show tonight, do any of our panelists have any closing thoughts they'd like to share?
I would say take advantage of any opportunity. I think something I've come to realize is that a strength of mine is always saying yes, always, being a go-getter, but also one of the things I've learned, especially navigating, graduate school opportunities, postgraduate opportunities, job offers, is learning when to also say no. But when pursuing internships, I would say apply, cast a wide net, and recognize that you're probably one of many, but don't hesitate, like I said earlier, to really take advantage of opportunities that might not be, there on paper, but really could be facilitated, and just be prepared and try to just communicate what you're looking for, what you want, and just be in charge of, your your own destiny, because I think that's a really valuable skill, not just in navigating internships, but in life. But recognizing what you want and going after it, kind of people recognize passion and they recognize that, like, go-getters. So if the opportunity isn't there, find it. It can be. And don't hesitate to understand that it's not going to be perfect. There's plenty of hiccups in my experience. My internship kind of director / boss, it was his first time too. Super awesome guy, but so many things going on. So there was a lot of times where I had to advocate for myself, but I got so much out of it. I got to meet so many people and pursue opportunities that weren't necessarily facilitated. So I meet a farmer, I talk to them, I say I'd like to go out, like another oyster grower or whatever it might be. He wasn't necessarily facilitating that for me, but those opportunities through conversation came to present themselves, and those were incredibly valuable. I've had a number of job offers since then as a result of that. So that's my biggest recommendation, is just pursue opportunity. Don't be afraid of those conversations. If it's something you're not comfortable with, pursue your resources like the Career Center in Megan. Yeah.
Great advice, Alicia. Really good.
I think I'll jump on that train and just say that use every resource that our UMF family has to offer. Ed majors, go to career services. Have them look at your resume, your CV. It helps so much. Do a mock interview with them and know that coming from UMF, you're going to have so many schools that are so excited about you, and just be so excited about getting to know all of them. Pay so much attention at the mock interviews, and then be excited when you see them, when they bring all of these wonderful superintendents and principals and UMF alumni to meet you at the career fair for educators, and apply for jobs that they could be in Omaha. Maybe you want to stay in Maine like I do, but apply for the jobs, prepare for them, and know that coming from UMF, you are ready. And just ask questions if you feel like you're not, because you'll have every single person at UMF tell you you are absolutely more ready than you know.
Great advice, Jess.
I'm just going to jump on this train as well. Coming from another student who got the opportunity to do an internship at UMF, just in the business world, it's, they always say that it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And I think that really speaks volume when you're doing an internship with UMF and the Civic Partnership for Student Advancement. And, I met a lot of different people in the ski industry and the business or hospitality sector. It really helped me propel my career more and open up job opportunities I never thought that would come up in my lifetime. But it all happened, and you meet great people along the way, and I think that really is an amazing feeling to come out with just the internship along with the knowledge you gain. And I would also just say, going on what Jess said, go to career services and ask questions. You can always work on your resume. You never have a perfect resume, and you want to make sure that you impress those employers when you go into those interviews, because it's they're kind of the window into what you are or who you are as a person and as an employer. So definitely take advantage of that. And UMF, has a great outlets to take advantage of in that regard. So
that's fantastic. Thanks, Nate.
I have one more thing I want to offer. Like I mentioned earlier, I have kind of had a unique path. I might be like the poster girl for the UMaine system, honestly, because I've not taken a class at UMaine, Fort Kent, and Augusta. I think that's it. Other than that, I've pretty much covered it all. And one of the things that I think that's valuable is to know that there are other resources. While I did my full-time internship last semester, I lived in Portland. I was fortunate enough to be able to afford to make that move really rapidly, but I also had to adjust my schedule to meet the needs of living somewhere else. And what I was able to do is utilize, the flexibility of the Maine system and take my art class in Gorham and utilize the resources at the University of Southern Maine. So being at the Career Center in Farmington wasn't, something that I was capable of doing on a daily basis, but I was able to utilize the Career Center at the University of Southern Maine. I utilized their library, but I had a lot of resources and support. And despite the fact that I wasn't a full-time or matriculated student at their university, they were really there to help facilitate any opportunities, job opportunities. And if anything, I think that there's a lot of efforts behind the Maine system to create an even more streamlined system in order to do that. But don't let little roadblocks get you, because there's opportunity. And if it's taking an online class or like utilizing Orno or the Hutchinson Center or other Maine universities, or even just one of the considerations I made was, is there a community college nearby? Can I utilize that as a transfer credit? There were a lot of conversations had, but there is opportunity. You just have to search for it and find a way to facilitate it. No one's going to do it for you, but recognize that it's a one university system and everybody's there to help you be successful.
That's a really good point, Alicia. We do have access to the vast resource of the University of Maine system and be able to leverage those resources. That's a really good point. All right, so I am going to go ahead and wrap this up for tonight. I'd like to thank everyone who joined us tonight. This wasn't the format we had planned on, so we appreciate you tuning in. If you got a rising high school junior or senior in your life, we hope they'll consider Farmington in their college decision-making process. We're still accepting applications. Our admissions office is still working hard remotely. We know everything is a little different now, given the current circumstances, but one thing that remains constant is our commitment to our students. We're here for you. Thank you again. Have a good night, and go Beavers.
The day that I toured UMF, I knew I wanted to go here. It was just so beautiful, and everyone that I spoke to was so nice to me. It made me feel like I was already a part of the campus. One of the reasons why I became a tour guide at UMF was because of the great experience that I had getting a tour when I was a student in high school. Getting to actually be in the town, walking around, talking with the college student there, learning what it was like for her. Maybe I could really see myself here.
Few of the reasons I transferred here, the location feels like it's right back at home. Here you have all the independence in the world. I can walk to a grocery store, I can walk to Dunkin'. It's very affordable, and outdoor rec business was a very attractive program to me.
The location of Farmington really attracted me, given its distance from nearby ski mountains and 4,000 footers that we hike here in Maine with our Mainly Outdoors program. In my internship, I've had the opportunity to work with more than 30 growers in the aquaculture industry. Many courses take you outside, get you off campus, and that's something I really appreciate about having a small community here, is that they can create those opportunities that larger universities and larger courses can't.
I really enjoyed student teaching because it gave me a chance to see what kind of teacher I want to be and try that out, and as well as figure out ways that I want to connect to my future students so that I can be the best teacher I can be. From the first education class I took, I could tell that the professors here in the education program are so strong. They have been doing this for a long time. They know what students are going to be wondering. They know how to provide support. It's been so amazing. I wouldn't trade my education at UMF for anything.
My professor and mentor recommended me to this mountain operations internship, and I really enjoyed it because I got to see all the aspects required to run a mountain. Because of my education here at Farmington, I feel like I have lots of opportunities and networks to branch out after graduation.
I would say Farmington would be an excellent choice for a student because there's so much variability in the majors and opportunities here. People are really excited about seeing you be successful, and whether or not it's in their program, they're happy to facilitate opportunities to help you find what you're looking for. The opportunity to join a close-knit community at a small liberal arts college is what drew me to Farmington. My name is Alicia Gairo, and I'm studying geography and environmental planning.
My name is Jacqueline Gleason-Boray, and I'm studying world language education.
My name is Kyle Joseph, and I'm an outdoor recreation business administration major here at the University of Maine, Farmington.